May you continue to stay standing as the Nepo Ulta 5th and 6th graders. Tehoto the Nepo Ulta. You can come forward to the podium up front. And now we will have the national anthem sung by our newly crowned Miss Navajo Nation 2023-2024, Amy Nelsbot Reeves Begay. da hui ni go at da nat a I go ne lini no dos de sons na bayet kahaya but a honey go denel ne hit in the ahos a go ne da bahat se tahalonde eya bet asi hasin tkot nechat dasens osinte Oshi e son besenel go da not ahos ago nehekeya biki kad hojon nahazli. Thank you to Chichalta Chapter Veteran Organization Color Guard. We have Patrick Tom, U.S. Army Afghanistan veteran. Tyson King, U.S. Marine Corps Afghanistan veteran. Sherilyn Juan, U.S. Army Iraq veteran. Katrina Yazzie, U.S. Army Iraq veteran. Leona Largo, U.S. Army Iraq veteran. Octavia Silent Men, U.S. Air Force Afghanistan veteran. Ichahat, Ado Kon Ashine Shalchine from Tsahoto de Nepo Ultra, Ado Shade Balta and the Linigi, Miss McCray, Ichahat, Kodon Halchine, Jinagon and Tindon, Jinagon Kinata da Ila, Ado Ichahat, Do Shadeja, Miss Navajo Nation. Amy, thank you for providing that beautiful national anthem for us this morning. Ado Kodo Shiaj, Honorable Ricky Nez Kon Sodezen Nha Yesh Di Yahi Jeheki Yatso the Dolzingto ya Anto Lil Ako Yaha Shiaj Kodo Sodezen in Leheki A Kodeshindole Naz Ande.
Shanant Honorable Speaker Curley, Shanant Notlinigi 25th Navajo Nation Council Beshbahas Anna Aron Harchin Olidon Harchin dan Juna Yobara Zolna Aro Nad Nation Notlinigi do Arnoldso Shik Aro Shidne Notlini Kashi Koro Yaradi Nildo Digin Bichenda Idi constantly do Lel so. Let us bow our heads and pray at this time. Nehit Kha, Nehit again. O Lido, Eont Eda, Eont Egon Nethodigen Gon Hidigendle, Koron Hajopa Enitzen. Achehe Nihidigen Leni in a ben Hickagistlit o Kodahonzaten Hios Cartlandla. Inna Wolgay ben an Hintkin a Kuiche. Also Goshi in Abelhadet Ehegi Bachonitzen. Et Hojon Gehegi Ishiban Hilta Hojon. Ben Nachiben hit Hayara hot Ethe. And the Dutch in a Huint Naton Hatkin Nata to Koro. Big Tidahui Nitatle. Nte Nchetesit Eon Hidigen Leni Hassitla. Around at the Adahonitsen Anilsko, Doyonit Eran Harahastki. And at the Yelzi Anilsko. Eben Nache Ekoro, nche etan da I khandle da ILZ kon khanan elon hits ange khandle ende da khot zabe ni khesi ashorn hidigen leni kodo bebe nache ina a kuichin hits adat as dingo yat ehui khaton khalchen belchana nitlingo eche hot an khat in ado kon ende da alchogo denne bichen da khina alto elkeji jakorabana alte tohnande na rebe elchi walio Russia do Ukraine but I had your bag with net hit a hon nila and that Israel has aro Palestinians had your bad hon net a con ha inch ben ye hot a hot ish ashen do kodo ashhode ne hidigen lini yo ne job pa olge Niki ni yolto ben na chajo al khanchi keso hini nado lel aron da ta hendi nido lel a kuich inna bel khadat e koroyro al khas e ben hik echet lego ben na che ben hit khahyar hot eto yat eko nikena nishta holnoro ko nihich oneron khalchen da halno atde nesen lido yat eko ni ganaz neldo nihich do koro Nihichin ya don't era the hadlo ndetla. Do hodat era bara hajo pago na regon da kai. Bich en da huina ashmor ba china bata ba ahanzan. Aro koro batsodilzen stot ole. Aron that an hinant and Lenige President Nigrin, Vice President Montoya. Nika Speaker Curley. Aron that the Chief Justice Joanne Jane. Aron hinant akon Beshbahasa an Archo Ben Sikesto, but Jabi when let Koroya at Ehota Huinit and Lido Lake. And a great hotness Nelbaranja are not Annie the Holnoro, the Never Washington, Nikerat it I ended the co the ne Archoko, Nahabik Loro, Nahajina Ashhoda. Ndi nido le khot an khat in aron na hat an linigishin koro fall session bedin nijo ak agenda wishi stoden yat e hon hinne ni hedene ndat nest an lido kadei hakon beshba has an hat an linigis sad betan hadit ahishi yan sikhe son hat agi nas kui leto ni kan legen nido le Olero yont eren hidigen lenin hides kagon hetwandlo don hajin pa ashhoda hund sagon chejo body nen get benashin Jesus Christ amen.
Thank you, Honorable Ricky Nez, Koto Jinagot. So there's an end hub by Kain Lado, Kwaikishin, Nasrab and Nahuit Ado, Leto, Dado Jinagon Kanan, Nashanada, the Nilko, Beshpatas Anet and Itliniki. Colleagues, I'm going to ask for a roll call. So if you're here in the chambers, press your roll call button so we can call to order. Thank you, colleagues. We have 14 present And I want to introduce Sha'awe. This is my daughter, Kamiko Curley. So her class did Pledge of Allegiance. And so I want to have her call the meeting to order, and she's going to hit the gavel for me. We will call to order at 10:22 a.m. Yeah, going to class. Oh. Oh.
Ja, Asha Kamiko Nanisha, Shanjakin Nisha, Zoto, Nibashito, not Gleany Dashing, Tuna Chitney Dashanella. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to school now.
Okay. Oh, see you, buddy. Okay. Go back to Miss McCray. Colleagues, we also want to thank our Chief Justice who was here with us, Mr. Wan Jane. And we also have our Honorable Madam Vice President, Rochelle Montoya, here with us. And we also had Miss Navajo Nation. Colleagues, we do call the meeting to order at 10:22 a.m. here in Window Rock, and we do have a proposed fall council session agenda dated October 16th to the 20th, 2023. And we all heard the bell rung throughout the Capitol here at 10 o'clock a.m. And this meeting is also aired officially from our Navajo Nation Council YouTube page. So folks in the gallery, just remember to keep yourself respectful in our audiences. And if you do want to share any videos, you can share our official Navajo Nation YouTube channel where it is currently being live streamed. Colleagues, so we did finish number 1, called session to order, roll call, and invocation. Colleagues, if we don't have any trouble here, I'd like to request a recess. We do have our Arizona Secretary of State, Adrian Fontes, who is here with us, and he would need give us about a brief 15 minutes to have him report to our council and also to the Navajo Nation. Koto e pahotil alto e behaneto benanish il iniki e jonoko koto nikilche hoto neto a neshi to na tikit to tahano e kwaigi alt isako 15 minutes e kwaigi ninchke do le. Colleagues, if there's any other objections to recess for 15 minutes, I don't see any objections. We will recess at 10:25 a.m. And Secretary of State, maybe you can join us up here in the presenters table, and you can provide your message to the Navajo people and also our Navajo Nation government.
Ya'ate, buenos días a todos, and good morning, everyone. Honorable Madam Speaker, Mr. President, Vice President Montoya, Chief Justice Jane, and Honorable Council delegates, my friends and relatives from across Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, relatives and friends of the Great Dene Nation, it is an honor and a privilege to speak to you today in my role as the Arizona Secretary of State. My name is Adrian Fontes. I do not come from a tradition where we specifically recognize our maternal and paternal family's heritage when we introduce ourselves, but allow me, please, a moment to introduce myself and tell you a little about me. I am from Nogales, on the border with Mexico, and my family stretches back many, many generations in the U.S.-Mexico area around there. We are teachers, railroaders, and ranchers. I am a proud Marine Corps veteran. I have great respect and reverence for the sacrifices and amazing accomplishments of the Navajo code talkers who made a significant impact on me when I learned of their service as a young Marine. From them, I learned the meaning of honor, courage, and commitment. I am an attorney, a graduate of Arizona State University and the University of Denver. Before I got into politics, I worked in state and the federal court systems to fight for people's rights. I am a father of 3 daughters. I am raising them to be strong, smart, and self-determined young women. And I am teaching them to be proud of their heritage and to always work to protect the rights of those in need. I was elected Arizona Secretary of State in November of 2022. And previous to that, I served as the Maricopa County Recorder, overseeing the election department in the greater Phoenix metro area. In that job, I worked with several other tribal governments that are within the boundaries of Maricopa County. I was asked to talk a little bit today about what the Arizona Secretary of State's office does and to begin a genuine process of consultation with your tribe and tribes all across the Grand Canyon State to ensure that our programs meet the needs of tribal members. Let me tell you a little about the Arizona Secretary of State's office. In Arizona, I am the Chief Election Officer for the entire state. I will talk more about that in a moment, but first, a little of the other areas in our office. I oversee the state libraries, the state archives, and public records. In that role, I help to tell Arizona's story and preserve its past. This is our collective history and our heritage. To that end, our office distributes funds to rural libraries, specifically providing some funding for internet access and STEM education programs across Arizona. Libraries, as you know, are community meeting places and will always have my full support. In many small rural communities across the state, they are the heart of their communities. In our business services department, we approve millions of dollars in investment to come into Arizona from foreign investors. Many types of business activities flow through the Secretary of State's office because corporations and companies, individuals as well, are required to file and register in my office, whether they're working with limited partnerships, trademarks and trade names, among other activities. It's my office's job to help business. Many of those small businesses and entrepreneurs get these issues addressed quickly and effectively so they can get to work stimulating the economy and making a living. The notaries that so many of us use for very important transactions in our day-to-day lives and our businesses are commissioned through the Secretary of State's office. We are their chief regulator. Lastly, we notarize documents to foreign nations outside of the United States of America through the apostille process, enabling individuals either to travel or invest in other places to take care of their family or healthcare needs overseas. This is also an important function of the office. Last and not least, before I speak more to elections, is the Address Confidentiality Program. This program shields addresses of victims of domestic violence and stalking and their families. Over 1,000 households in Arizona are served and protected by this program. And because October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and here this nation has also declared the same, it is my hope that during my time in office, my office and this nation can collaborate closely, not with this tribe, but all tribes, and other programs involved that serve victims to ensure that individuals across the state know about this program and the protections that are provided through the Secretary of State's Address Confidentiality Program. And now to my role as the Chief Election Officer. Basically, we provide oversight and administration, regulation, and guidance for safe, secure, and accurate elections across Arizona. Our office is committed to facilitating discussions and consultations between tribal representatives, the federal government, and county elections officials about how we can expand voting access and protect tribal voters. We conduct training and certification for our local and county elections officials. It is now more important than ever that we attain the support that counties need. Unfortunately, we've seen 12 of our 15 counties losing senior election officials. And so my office is especially active in that area to help train those new folks who are coming into these spaces. We certify voting devices, election results, candidates, and initiatives for the ballot, as well as the results for all statewide elections. Our office publishes elections procedures manuals so that local, county, and tribal officials can know what the rules are for running elections in Arizona. This elections procedures manual must be updated according to the law every 2 years. Currently, we are on target to publish our manual in time for the 2024 election. We consulted with tribal officials about changes to the elections procedures manual. In fact, I'm happy to say, Madam Speaker, that you and I had a very productive meeting not too long ago, and we actually adopted almost every one of the Speaker's recommendations. I appreciate your input. Many of the requested changes have been incorporated into the manual, and it has been referred to the Governor and the Attorney General for their signature and approval. I have a goal of registering more voters, making voting easier and more accessible for all of Arizonans. To that end, we've created a unique URL program, and that means that various groups and organizations can utilize this program to register more voters online where the internet is available, using their own tablets or other devices. We encourage folks who are out there engaging voters to use this system, as it will speed up voter registration and make the information more accurate. You also, with the unique URL program, are no longer required to have an Arizona ID to register to vote online. This is incredibly important, particularly for many tribal members across the state. Just yesterday, we designated Native Health Agency in Phoenix as a voter registration agency in Arizona. So they will be encouraging their patients to register, and they now have the tools to make it easy to do so. To that end, in Phoenix, there is now a remote voter registration terminal at Native Health, so that individuals can go to what they see as a trusted institution and register to vote, so that their voices will be heard. I plan to work with other IHS and tribal affiliated agencies throughout my term to continue to expand this program. Not too long ago, my office convened a joint tribal and county elections summit. This was just last month. We did it down at Castle Rock. We used the cooperation of Native American voting rights groups, and we wanted to focus on Native American voting history in Arizona. We had a 2022 voter participation review. We included sessions on tribal and county best practices, voter engagement planning, particularly on tribal lands, so that county governments could become more aware of the barriers facing so many Native voters. Some of the other support that we provide to counties are as follows. We maintain a statewide voter registration database. Apache, Navajo, Coconino, and many other Arizona counties rely on this system for their day-to-day voter registration upkeep. We're looking to create an adequate and consistent source of state funding for this system. We want to reduce costs to the counties while maintaining a very robust set of support from the Secretary of State's office. As to cybersecurity, we created the first statewide Chief Information Security Officer, specifically dedicated to keeping our election systems in Arizona secure. This officer was appointed by me just a few months ago. And I'm proud to say I did the same thing when I was in Maricopa County. So we are making sure to keep our information technology systems safe and secure. One of the ways that we're going to do this is that we have invited county election officials from across the state to a tabletop exercise in December. We've engaged with the Department of Homeland Security, the Arizona Counterterrorism Information Center, and several other law enforcement and intelligence gathering organizations to help us prepare for just about anything that might come to us in 2024. And on a day-to-day basis, we continue to monitor threats from overseas, whether it's from Russia or Iran, China or North Korea. They threaten our democracy with attempts to interfere with our elections. And our security focus, particularly through cybersecurity means, I'm proud to say, have never been better. Our elections procedures manual that I mentioned earlier is an essential component for consistent and effective election administration in all areas of the state. County officials have given us feedback for the last several months and have suggested changes and updates, many of which we did incorporate into the manual. We are on track to be updated for the first time since before 2019. We made the manual more user-friendly for county elections officials, many of whom across the state, as I mentioned, are new to their jobs. And one very important program that we hope to gain support from the legislature for very soon is our Workforce Fellowship Program. We proposed funding 2 counties who want to participate to recruit students from community colleges and universities. We would provide stipends and housing costs during the fall semester of 2024 so that these individuals could help those county election departments run their operations more smoothly, providing better services for all of our voters. Student workers or fellows would provide that on-the-ground staffing, and they would be utilized at the direction of county election administrators. Apache County and Coconino County elections officials have already indicated that they hope to participate in this program should the legislature provide the necessary funding. Some of our goals for the future include expanding vote centers into rural and remote areas, particularly many tribal areas. It's obviously more convenient for voters and will cut down on the number of rejected and provisional ballots. This is an equal protection issue, and I will not stop advocating for vote centers across Arizona, because in this state, every single vote must count. I'd hope to expand broadband internet access to make sure that each of the counties has the tools they need to establish and operate these vote centers and to expand them into rural and remote areas across the state. We want to register more voters and help connect geocoding resources to residents in rural areas so that we can make absolutely certain that their registration address is accurate so that every ballot they receive is correct and tabulated.
Let us redo the timer.
Still delivery issues that make it difficult. Working hard with the counties to try to align precinct and chapter boundaries. This will make it easier to work together to make sure that elections on the same or nearby locations for tribal and state elections will be accurate for our voters. This has been a terrible problem in many parts of the state. Also, we will continue an open line of communication and tribal consultation on any changes to voting and poll locations. Now, I'd like to address what happened at many farms last year. It was dead wrong. It should never have happened. And proper training and resources would have prevented that polling place from opening late. We absolutely must do better, and under my administration, I'm determined that we will. I will continue again to support vote centers, but as long as there are precinct voting locations in Arizona, they must follow the law and open on time. Madam Speaker, it has been my honor to address this council. It is my pleasure to be before you all today, and it is certainly my duty, one that I take as seriously as that when I was a Marine, to ensure that every American has their constitutional rights preserved, is able to vote easily, and that every single one of those votes is tabulated correctly so that the real voice of America will be heard. Thank you very much. I wish you all a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Arizona Secretary of State, Mr. Adrian Fontes, for visiting the great Navajo Nation, and travel home safely back well to the Valley area. I know it's still warm over there. Thank you, colleagues. Do we have any questions for our Arizona Secretary of State? If not, thank you again, Arizona Secretary of State, for visiting the Navajo Nation. Colleagues, we will do a recall and then reconvene and exit out of recess. Can do roll call by pressing your request to speak button. And for the audience, if you're wondering, we do have today's theme as purple. And this is to bring awareness on stopping domestic violence across the Navajo Nation. So we want to thank Honorable Kisbat Crotty for organizing this morning's walk all the way from the Navajo Nation Museum to the Capitol, and also all the advocates and volunteers that joined us early this morning. So if you do see purple, thank you for wearing purple, observing Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month. And also great appreciation to Northern Arizona University. I believe the President, Cruz Rivera, was also here earlier this morning, so he might come back in and join us. So they provided breakfast this morning. Colleagues, we have 14 present here within the chambers, and we only have 3 excused absences. I did mention to several of our colleagues that an excused absence is only if you're meeting with a sovereign to sovereign nation or any family emergencies. So for the record, we do have excused Honorable So, Honorable Nota, and Honorable Vince James up to 12 p.m. today. Although did yesterday, I think I had too much pinions. I had a little allergic reaction to pinions. So it is pinion season. So if I run out of my voice, I probably have to call on Chair Eugenia Charles Newton to to chair for me, since I believe she's the only. And Chair Brenda Jesus. So the way it works, if you have a pro temp speaker, it can only be given to the chair during a council session. So we have 2 chairs with us here this morning. So ladies, just be on standby if I completely lose my voice. Number 2, we'll keep continuing on to our agenda, colleagues. We have recognizing guests and visiting officials to the Navajo Nation. We have first in queue, Kodosh Che, Honorable Tull.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Aro Kodonat Ani Nitlenigi. Here, Kwaetlana Nitlin winter of as you were fall session. Ato here Hidishnil. Cloud a high combanan Hidish can't also mat ani notleni throughout the travel department chapters. Because a lot so a call a and his bahas and call a Naji no Aden Hatchin Landake. A battle and all it as shown the banan hoshka. But I drove by and lake of Alchin the Holland to Yilkinani, the Holland to Bijet of Machin the Holland. A year one or to Satin Aden Jura, a hit at the Jonzonda. In such a case, Leco, I want it egg echo, these lots on it, Lenny. Also, I have a brother-in-law that's serving in the army as an sergeant law overseas Naga. There was a private from northern area almost killed himself, and this gentleman I'm talking about, his brother-in-law, Shnenigi able to gun out echo. Shin Kwaya Nia ich Hatzi Hashita de con o den Litlonshi suicide Ilia Adelia Shin Kwaja Nia Deutsch Hatzi Hoano Ishin Neto Ado Shik Leni Passion net in Yakut Nasha no Dahato Zi Echo Ari Hanin Hichi Lako with Hinchnani Bill. Aro be hasendande. Tuzem be bahatot in hinde no Lenigin hits it as an yo but sket no. A brother in law with a gun and Lenigi Adi calling he texting he lako. So we did that yesterday and hopefully that this soldier boy is okay. Hot slap in the haljishi. Ako Eshi Ikaha Yarolil. This private is from northern area. I will not name any individual that I'm talking about. What in his a lot so high patsotols and ahwichin ashonde. Not ani no senigito. Aro chapter official though amana yat epidini though managers throughout the 110 chapter. Even the staff within our nation here, Gotland hina soltra. Aron Halchindo con the Haik here by his and over our husband. Hoda Nil Sadan, he don't nick Shita Huitralako, General Nebis Sunday La Le Conyet Hatral, Hashina Winton. Jato a man of Lin Hiala Hodan Halchin in a notin, a co teachers do Asian Lato that in Linko. Hot a patajo by and leko. Ado con a jeto o manosenigito con a joke or not idolist to needs and do a yat or nit nane catolisto conat ani nitlengi. One thing Kurotra Beswas ani tlenni we should not neglect our community or not supporting them. In hada is nelbenet nito lilko. Which eben nationat ani danit niko erehabe korobe hasin land of Madam Chair, thank you. Yeah, and God bless you to all of you.
Yeah, Shache. Going down the line, we have Honorable Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, colleagues. I want to begin by saying that thank you to the Sergeant at Arms who is currently patrolling the area around us, keeping us safe here within our council chambers. Per the law of Navajo Nation Code, we do have a sergeant at arms that does assist us during this time, so I do want to recognize our police officers, and namely the sergeant at arms who was here with us today. I also, Speaker, one of the veterans who posted the flags this morning was not recognized. Her name is Candace Payochi. She's from the Northern Agency. She filled the position for one of the veterans who couldn't be here from Chilchachka, right, that was here this morning from the Veterans Agency. So I just want to recognize her. She's always ready to step up to assist veterans and especially the women veterans. So I just want to recognize her at this time. I also, as was already I just want to reiterate, the kids today were so adorable. I really enjoy when we have our kids here in chambers, especially when they're offering prayers, or in this case, songs for us. I just always feel like it's a blessing for all of us here, and it reminds us the work that we're doing is for them. So I always tease them and tell them, when I become an old delegate and I'm in a home, I hope that you guys remember me when you guys are all leaders and you'll come and you'll visit me. And they laugh a little bit, but I'm being very serious. That oftentimes we forget about those who served in this council chambers. We forget about them and the work that they've done. But it's good to see our young kids here in the chambers blessing us in that way. So thank you for making that happen, Speaker. And then I just want to say good morning to the community of Shiprock, and I know we have a lot of our urban Navajos who are listening in. This is where they get all their information. So all of our Navajos who are living off the Navajo Nation, those in Phoenix, Denver, Salt Lake City, Albuquerque, I know that we get posts from those from New York, Okinawa. I know that, over Germany is another one that we see posts on our YouTube posts where they're telling us where they're from. So I just want to say good morning to all of them, Yat Bin, and it's good that you all are listening in to hear your council delegates at work. I also want to point out, Speaker, that we do have Mr. Brian Lee, who is a staff assistant, a senior field representative for Senator Ben Ray Lujan, who is here in the north part of the chambers. Thank you, Speaker. I want to just recognize all of them at this time, Speaker. I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 2:05. Colleagues, just a reminder of recognizing visiting officials. You get a lot of 5 minutes each, just for the record. Next in queue, we have Honorable Helena Nesbegay.
Good morning, Yat Ebene, Shalchine, Do Shikado Shidene. I'm Delegate Helena Nesbegay, 28 in Slot, Lizatlana Bashchina, Kaidne Dashichedo, Nash Ejitkabaha Dashinala. This morning, I want to recognize my LDA. He joined me this morning for the opening session of this fall session of the 25th Council. And Shiaj Tom, you want to raise your hand? He's my LDA. So, and LDAs are very important to us Council because they carry out a lot of our duties and responsibilities when we're not there. They cover for us, and they go where we should be at, but when we have other things to do, my 5 delegate region that I represent as Tsinabas Habatin, Badaway Gap. I know they're online. This morning, they always have community members come to the chapters, and they set up their big screen TV for the community to watch, and they're probably logged on and they're online. Chapter officials on Lenide. Adon Halchinelto, Salad and Leniden, which are they kaide, so the Zenchin hot Beba had Beba Yadil Tiepinda, Beba had the city, hala nakaalchine ade kala aida. So this morning, you know, I remember what a delegate said. So at this time, I remember the veterans, our children are out there, even though, you know, they took that oath, and that's the reason why they're out there. And then my colleagues too for being here with us. Thank you, and it's good to see each and every one of you. And our staff here too. Thank you for all you do for us. Thank you. Ako hotao e hasito le lihehe.
Thank you, Koto Shama. Honorable Helena Nesbitt-Gay. Next in queue, we have Honorable Shauna Antlaw.
Shadeja, Madam Speaker Curley, Ado Arnold, Bishbasa Anigi, Ado Shishito O Yate Benin de Schnidole, Ado Tashi A Adel Sisnidole, She Shana and Claude Shijine, Ado Dona and Shinigi A Yahowasan and Shnido, Torich Ine Bashichin, Trachini, Deshichedo, Kiani, the Schnella, Kot Atmado Sanche. Ado she Beshbasa Anagin Lage in Libis Hazogi Equit Asian Nishishle. Ado Yat and the Schnidolet Arnotro Shanand Anida Notlini. Ado Code has Twido Sani, Stoti Benishni, do a Mato Ajada Notlini. Ado Baoltrai, a stop Benishni. Ado Hala a Nihesalalto, Haloto, a stop Betrahajon dole, di Benebiye. Ado Shishin is the Oyat and the Schnidole. Ado, I want to recognize at this time the community of Chinle and the Chinle chapter administration. I also want to recognize our Apache County recorder, and if I could have him please stand, Mr. Larry Noble. He's sitting on the east side, and then also our honor riders that were here this morning. Good morning to them as well. And then also, I just want to thank Northern Arizona University. I was invited to lunch by President Cruz Riviera, and I want to thank the Northern Arizona University staff. So I am a proud alumni from Northern Arizona University, so go Lumberjacks. And I just want to encourage our students to look into higher institutions that surround our Navajo Nation. And if you look into the programs, you will see that many of them have outstanding nursing programs, engineering programs, pre-law programs. So please take advantage of that, especially for our high school students. I also want to take some time to acknowledge the Western Navajo Fair that will be starting this week. And then also thank you to the Northern Agency representatives. We will have the Youth Day as well, the parade. So we are looking forward to joining our relatives on the Western Agency. Also today, thank you to our Western Agency grazing officials for also inviting us to be a part of it. And then just to let our viewers and listeners know that Chinle chapter will have their regular meeting today at 3:00 p.m. So with that, Madam Speaker, I will go ahead and reserve the rest of my time.
Reserve time of 2:04. Colleagues, are there anybody else who would like to request to speak on recognizing guests and visiting officials? Honorable Dr. Andy Nez.
Shadow Speaker, auto staff, colleagues here on the 25th. Auto ade danas hotraniki nihido yat ebene auto ade da isonal agi to nihido hashin da nihon nalit edo dao da isonal ade nihido yat e nihidini dole. Good morning. And also just recognizing my LDA is also present, Ms. Benali. She's a very great asset to the work that we do in our upper district communities, Kuro District 18. Aro e kwaiki a bigaki bilnashnisha to sahot so do nihiche tunnel eledo beg elchi nihido ade kedahot inigi do hatnanslinki dal nisho nihido yat ebene. My name is Andy Nez. I work with our communities of Fort Defiant, Sawmill, Crystal, and Red Lake. And so good morning to all of those, our listeners, and to our veterans as well, our women warriors, all who have placed our flags here this morning. Aro tsao tsao na ba altka alto ni hito ni khalchine hiha ni hidini to lelshe na kigo shita ke kwa ade alto yinda altka ako John. Aro to our honor writers, to all those again just participating in today's morning events leading on to the rest of the week. And to everyone, good morning. And certainly last but not least, to our LGBTQ plus relatives who are listening or who are here in the chambers, to my wonderful, beautiful people, good morning. Akwadadole, speaker, thank you, and I'll waive the rest of my time.
Honorable Dr. Andy Nez waives the rest of his time. Vice Chair Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Speaker Curley, thank you. Just want to say good morning to our legislative team. Thank you for being here with us. Also to my Honorable 25th Navajo Nation Council. Thank you for being here in real life, sitting before us in the Navajo Nation Council chambers. And I'd just like to welcome everybody here in the galley that's joined us today. Good morning. So I'd like to go ahead and provide a recognition to Mr. Luther Lee, Director of Tribal Engagement. Can you please stand up? Thank you for being here with us today. Just like to recognize you. Also like to recognize Mr. Noble and his organization. They led a ride in this morning, and it's very honorable. Ride Breast Cancer Awareness Month, along with Domestic Violence Awareness, and I really appreciate, it was an honor, to see you guys yesterday and, to invite you here today, and just like I shared with you, my mother, I lost my mother to breast cancer and cancer, and I shared that story with you, and, this is something that, I wanted to recognize you and the rest of the writers that were here with us today, as well as the sponsor and organizer. And I just want to thank her. I don't know if she's still here with us, but just let her know that we said thank you, and we commend you, for providing those writing. Thank you. Yeah. So just wanted to put that on record. Also like to recognize my family, Albina, Yithnaba. And I'm pretty sure they're at home listening in to this council session. And my little girl, she says, "Go to the meeting." So, I'm very thankful for all the organizations that came together this morning, and also the prayer this morning, earlier this morning. Also like to thank, special thanks to Jackie for the soup. It was really delicious. Thank you for making the steamed corn stew. I snuck in a bowl this morning, so I'm okay. And just like to thank everybody for being here with us today. All our branches, our Chief Justice, also our Navajo Nation executive team as well, and all of the legislative branch too. So just want to thank everybody for being here, and also those that are on the call, all our veterans that have served, and all those that are serving, abroad, and those that are, protecting our freedoms. And also like to extend that thank you to them, and also my chapters that represent Cameron, Coal Mines, Lana Lake, Bird Springs, and Loop, District 3 and 5. Shay, my deshkish dineshne, Hashkan Hazo Bashichin, Hana, Nideshe, Tsanajani Deshnella, but Ego Dinenishle, Tlabede Nasha. So those are my clans and where I'm from, and I just like to say good morning.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson. Colleagues, are there any more recognizing guests and visiting officials? Honorable Ricky Nez.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Curley, honorable members of the 25th Council. Doanol Tor, Shidnen, Lenigi, Qui Nahaso Tanigi, I don't did the ice notes though. Just would like to recognize my 6 chapters, all the officials, as well as their veterans organizations and their Club C. One of them is listening this morning from Ninahanzad, Carmelita Low, Yat Ehipina. So, and staff at the chapters, Yat Ehipina Arnold. So, I did a do late speaker do here.
Thank you, Honorable Nez. Colleagues, are there any other recognizing guests and visiting officials? If not, I'm going back to reserve time. We have Honorable Tlaw with 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
Thank you, Shadeja, Madam Speaker. And then I also saw Holbrook High School. Good morning, Chene. It's good to see you there. Thank you for coming into the gallery and watching today, and then also to your administration, your school board, and then of course your teachers and your bus driver for driving you out here. So it's always good to see our students here today, and then also we did see some vendors outside. So I'm just so excited to see them here, and then also good morning to our executive branch, and then also our judicial branch, our Chief Justice, Justice Jane, and then also Madam AG, Shadeja, good morning. It's good to see you here. And with that, Shadeja, Madam Speaker, I will waive the rest of my time.
Thank you, Honorable Tlaw. Waives the rest of our time. We have Chair Brenda Jesus.
Yat Bene, Madam Speaker and colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, and also to legislative branch staff, thank you for preparing for this week's fall session. To the visitors in the gallery, good morning, each of you, and also to listeners on the call. This morning, I'd just like to quickly recognize my family for having their support and encouragement with this journey as a 25th Navajo Nation Council. And again, thank you to all the walkers this morning that had their involvement with the domestic violence initiative that was accomplished here this morning. I'd like to recognize the chapters of Oak Springs and Pine Springs, the elected officials, the president, vice president, and secretary treasurer, along with the veterans subcommittee under the chapter, as well as the community land use planning committee members. I'd like to acknowledge them this morning for working diligently with all the resources that they have to attain whatever goals and objectives they can to move the communities of St. Michael's, Oak Springs, and Pine Springs forward. I'd like to recognize Mr. Pete Watchman, who was on the 19th Navajo Nation Council for Mexican Springs, New Mexico. Mr. Watchman, if you're in the gallery, could you please stand? So he's not here, but I also like to recognize Mr. David Begay, Mr. David Sosi, Hazel James, and Janine Yazzie, as they had marched this morning for a water rights issue here on Navajo Nation. As we all know that we are currently in the middle of those discussions. And I also like to recognize the St. Michael's Indian School Lady Cardinals, the varsity team, for taking the St. Joseph School Volleyball Championship over the weekend. So again, I'd like to acknowledge the Lady Cardinals from St. Michael's Indian School this morning. And again, just thank you, and I'd like to go ahead and waive the rest of my time, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Jesus. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else in queue for recognizing guests. I'm going to go back to reserve time. We have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton with 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Thank you, Speaker. I also want to recognize at this time Mr. Philip Begay, who was the medicine man that took care of the Yebiche ceremony during the Northern Navajo Fair in Shiprock, New Mexico. It's always really nice to be a part of the ceremony. Every time I go, I feel like I learn something new, and I guess that's what they say. You never learn everything all at once. So Mr. Philip Begay is from the Ganado area, and I got to sit in with him all 9 days of the ceremony, speaker. So I just want to recognize him and his family at this time, the Jumbo family from the Chinle Many Farms area, who were also in attendance, and who were really great to be around during that time. And then, Speaker, I want to recognize, I always recognize my husband for really standing there beside me, helping me, encouraging me, being the support that I need. I always say he's my best friend. You know, he was also my campaign manager, even though he didn't like to hear that. And the veterans in Shiprock call him the first man of Shiprock. So that's kind of how they tease him, and people there in Shiprock tease him about that too. So I want to recognize the first man of Shiprock, Leroy Newton. I know he's listening, and he's probably saying, no, don't say that, but I'm going to say it. And Speaker, I'm always really kind of hesitant about doing this, but we've actually lost 3 people in our community this past weekend. I know one of them is Yvonne Paul, and then the other is 2 relatives that passed away from former council delegate Lula Jackson, her family, and they're dealing with the services this week. So maybe at the end of the recognition, Speaker, if you don't mind, if we could do a moment of silence, and then for all of the people, you know, who have passed on, those we're not recognizing on the floor, but you know, those that we think about, you know, in our minds, who have passed on, those who supported us, you know, who spoke good to us, and then those who, you know, who left teachings here with us. So Speaker, at this time, I'd like to ask when.
Thank you, Chair, for providing your remarks and appreciation. And we will recognize that moment of silence after we go through all the recognition of guests. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else in queue for recognizing guests and visiting officials. Also, Kodoshi Yaj Ikehat, Larry Noble, Kodon Ken Yahagi, former council delegate. I believe he did serve about 4 terms within the council when it was 88 council delegates. Kodo Nishin Lagi Ikehat. And also, want to give our special recognition. I know they're listening online with their families this morning. I had the honor of attending and helping with the Miss Indian Arizona pageant over the weekend. So we had 2 contestants that were from Navajo Nation. And I want to recognize the Miss Indian Arizona second runner-up, to Nana Bin. She's currently a student at Arizona State University. She became second runner-up. And then we also had Natania King from Taylor Wheatfields area. She was their first runner-up. And then the newly crowned Miss Indian Arizona is Lainey Lupe from White Mountain, Apache. For representing the Navajo Nation. So want to extend appreciation to those home communities, and also congratulations for running for that prestigious title. Aro kodo etengo to hanana tsihiko e. We'd like to request for our colleagues to stand, and also folks in the gallery, for a moment of silence, and then we will go into adopting our agenda. So let's go do a moment of silence for Chair Eugenia Charles Newton's constituents, relatives Alula Jackson and also Yvonne Paul, and just we'll do a moment of silence for their respects. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, colleagues, and we are going down to number 3, review and adopt the agenda. Could we have Ms. Johnson read our proposed agenda into the record, and then we will entertain a motion and a second.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, guests in the gallery and online, good morning. This is the proposed agenda of the 25th Navajo Nation Council Fall Session, October 16th through the 20th, 2023. Window Rock, Navajo Nation, Arizona. Presiding Honorable Crystalline Curley, 25th Navajo Nation Council Speaker. 1, call session to order, roll call invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials to the Navajo Nation. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, receive the State of the Nation address from the President of the Navajo Nation. 5, receive report from the Chief Justice of the Navajo Nation. 6, receive report from the Speaker of the Navajo Nation. 7, receive financial report from the Controller. 8, oral reports. Item A, Bureau of Indian Affairs. B, Indian Health Services, IHS. C, Attorney General. D, Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council. 9, written reports. Item A, Standing Committees. B, Board of Commissions. C, Bureau of Indian Affairs. D, Indian Health Services Area Director. 10, Old Business. A, Legislation 0052-23. 11, New Business. A, 0231-23. B, Legislation 0080-23. C, Legislation 0156-23. D, Legislation 0158-23. E, Legislation 0202-23. F, Legislation 0203-23. G, Legislation 0213-23. H, Legislation 0230-23. I, Legislation 0232-23. J, Legislation 0118-23. 12, close of session, announcements, and adjournment. Madam Chair, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for reading our proposed agenda into the record. Colleagues, do we have a motion? Motion by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Do Yiket Niyaisha, Vice Chair Johnson. First in queue, we have Honorable Damon.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Good morning to all our visitors that are here in the chambers and current and past dignitaries. Thank you very much for being a part of this discussion that we're going to be having here starting today. Good morning to individuals that are here representing different entities that are on behalf of the betterment of tomorrow for the Navajo Nation, and thank you for being here and giving us an update on the reports that we will be obtaining here today. Good morning, Madam Chief Justice Hiahat, for being here this morning. Great to see you. Good morning to yourself again, Madam Speaker. I do have an amendment to the agenda here this morning. I see that there is numerous different legislations that were passed by NABKIATIC committee without or given the green light, and as we say, Nabi works. So I'm going to ask for a consent agenda on new business. Item number A, legislation 0231-23, legislation 0158-23, sponsored by Honorable Jermaine Simonson. The first one was, Honorable Dr. Andy Nez, that one's sponsored by yourself. Third one is legislation 02-2-23, which is sponsored by Honorable Vince James. Third one is sponsored by yours truly, some guy from Baja Land named Seth Damon. Legislation 0203-23, and then Dr. Andy Nez is sponsoring item number H, legislation 0230-23. And then the last one, if you look on the last portion of your page, I, legislation 023-23, which is sponsored by Honorable Nathan Nota. And there's co-sponsors there too, if you see. That's my motion this morning, and I respectfully ask my colleagues to consider this consent agenda amendment. With that, colleagues, again, good morning, and I'll go ahead and yield back to the floor at this time with amendment number 1. Hoka. Oh, I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 2:45. Just for clarification, Honorable Damon, did you include E, sponsored by? Okay.
I can give you, since I'm real nervous to speak this morning. Item number A, item number D, item number E, item number F, item number H, and item number I. That's my motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Damon. We do have a motion on the floor. Colleagues, do we have a second? Second by Honorable Vice Chair Johnson. Colleagues, do we have any questions, objections on the consent agenda motion? If so, please press your request to speak. Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. I do have questions regarding legislation number 0202-23, sponsored by Honorable Vince James, which is item E on the agenda, so if we can remove that. Thank you, from the consent agenda. I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 4:45. There's an objection to remove legislation 0202-23 from consent agenda. Colleagues, are there any other objections or comments on the consent agenda? We go back to second call, and then I'll go back to reserve time. We have reserve time by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Chair Eugenia Charles Newton waives her time. Second call, third call. We go in for a vote for amendment number 1 is on the consent agenda to add new business item A, D, F, and I to consent agenda. 2 minutes on the board, colleagues. For the record, we do have Honorable Simpson that joined us. And we do have 4 excused absences due to family emergencies and sovereign to sovereign government meetings. That is Honorable Crotty, Honorable So, Honorable Nota, and Honorable James up to 12 p.m. Question of privilege raised by Honorable Damon.
That on the amendment 1 up there, there's no H, but I did ask for H. I don't know if that's oversight from. No, Madam Chair. Charles Newton asked for item number E to be removed. So, but item number H is the one. It's on there, right? Yeah, it's on there. It
Yes,
just-
that's
okay,
correct.
So it
So
just
it's
wasn't
updated.
on the board. There, it's on the board. We're good. We got it.
Okay, we do have the full vote here within the council chamber. That is a vote of 15 in favor with 0 opposed, with speaker not voting. Thank you, colleagues. We are back on the main motion of adopting our agenda. Are there any other deletions, additions to the agenda? We do have reserved time by Honorable Damon, 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, colleagues, again for your consideration to amendment number 1. With that, I'd like to propose amendment number 2 to the agenda. Amendment number 2 would be on under receiving reports, item number 8, under oral reports. You'll see there that there's a BIA, IHS, Attorney General, and Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council. My motion is to change that to accept those all as written reports. Thank you. That's my motion. And the reason why is we know that we got an email from our BIA director saying to be excused today, so I think that we can coordinate those efforts and meeting with the BIA if we have any questions. So that's my motion at this time, to accept those as written reports. Thank you. I'll go ahead and yield back to, and I'll waive my time.
Honorable Damon waives the rest of his time. There is a motion on the floor for amendment number 2 is to combine item 8, oral report, and item 9, written report, and accept as written reports. Is there a second? Second by Chair Jesus. Colleagues, questions, comments on amendment number 2? We have Honorable Toth.
Madam Chair, Speaker, I would like to also withdraw, if I'm in order, legislation 213, since we're not in emergency. I'd like to withdraw that if I'm in order, if this can also be included by the motion party. Thank you.
Hagoshi Ekihat Shache, Honorable Toth. There is a request for modification to amendment number 2 sponsor to delete letter G, legislation 0213-23 off the agenda. Ado Shache, you would probably visit the Office of Legal Counsel to withdraw that legislation through that process. Office of Legislative Services. Motioning party to amendment number 2, Honorable Damon. Do you concur?
Well, Madam, I look to your guidance on this, Madam Speaker, and the reason why is because of this. Well, historically, he just withdraws it, and there's two things. Are you withdrawing it, or are you just asking it for it to be deleted off the agenda? Now, if I add it to being deleted off the agenda, that's a question. But my other question is, if he's withdrawing it, then it's just withdrawn. So do I even need to include it in the motion? That's my question back to you, back to your leadership, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Damon. Since the legislation hasn't been withdrawn yet, first step we could do is delete it off the agenda. And then in the meantime, I don't know when Honorable Toth will be doing the proper process of withdrawing his legislation. Honorable Damon.
Thank you again for your leadership, Madam Speaker. With that, I'll go ahead and honor Honorable George Toth's request and add this into the motion, or the amendment. So.
And seconding party, Chair Jesus, do you concur? Hakoshi Okone. Colleagues, back to amendment number 2. So it is modified here on the board. Honorable Dr. Endinez.
Thank you, Speaker Curley, and to Shana, Honorable Damon as well for offering amendment number 2. Speaker, if I can also just ask the motioning party, or maybe just a concurrence, to also get perhaps we can add BIA or IHS onto like a Nabik kit report. The only reason I'm saying is because winter, spring, summer session, we've always accepted them as written reports, which is fine. We read the material. We can set up our own meetings with them independently. But I think for a lot of cases, we can also hear their report verbally. And I know there's also been action by some of our colleagues on 638 meetings, so IHS as well, to also give a report, as well as AG. I know that we also had Operation Rainbow Bridge on one of our Nabikiyat meetings. If we can somehow, we don't have to put them all three at once, but just sporadically as we move and progress through our Nabikiyat meetings. But thank you as well to our agents, BIA, IHS, AG, and for providing the written reports. I just wanted to comment on that Second Amendment. Thank you.
Shana, Honorable Dr. Andy Nez waives the rest of his time. We can also work on the agenda for the next following Nabikiyat committees on the Pacific reports that you will be requesting, so we can work with that, Honorable Dr. Andy Nez. Colleagues, are there any other additional questions or comments on Amendment Number 2? Second call. Third call. 2 minutes on the board for Amendment Number 2. Honorable Parrish, Honorable Norman Begay, Honorable Azeret, Honorable Slater. With that, colleagues, we have the full vote here from the council. We do have a vote of 15 in favor, 0 opposed, with speaker not voting. So Amendment Number 2 does carry. And we are back on the main motion of our accepting our agenda. Do kodo yehadasnaiki a Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Do yiketni yaki a Vice Chair Johnson. Dashto bahanana zita. Main motion to our agenda. Point of privilege raised by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Speaker, colleagues, I call this point of privilege under Rule 16 of the Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order. Speaker, if we're done with making the amendments to the agenda, can we take maybe a 5 or 10 minute recess for staff to reprint or to send out the changes that have been made to the agenda before we vote, so we know exactly what we're voting on for the agenda? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Going to recognize that point of privilege. Colleagues, we can take a 10-minute recess for our staff to make those copies and also electronic copy before we go into a vote. Thank you, colleagues. I don't hear no objections. We'll take a 10-minute recess and then we will do another roll call. So doing a recess to put that agenda together before we do a vote at 11:36 a.m. All right, colleagues, we can proceed with a roll call, and then we can reconvene and exit out of recess. Colleagues, we are in the middle of roll call, so press your request to speak. And for the record, we do have 4 excused absences. We have Honorable So, Honorable Nota, Honorable James up to 12 p.m., and also Honorable Crotty. With that, colleagues, we have 15 council members on the floor, and we will reconvene at 11:49 a.m. Colleagues, you should have a white document that says draft, and this is the proposed agenda. This is the agenda that has the 2 amendments on there. Before we go into a vote, we can do a second reading by Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Amendment 1, add new business items A, D, F, H, and I to the consent agenda. Amendment 2, combine item 8, oral reports, and item 9, written reports as written reports. That is the new item 8. Delete new business item G, legislation 0213-23, to be withdrawn, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I'm gonna go put 2 minutes on the board. This is for a vote to adopt our agenda. Honorable Ricky Nez, vote screen. Vice Chair Simonson votes green. Thank you, colleagues. We have a vote of 16 in favor, 0 opposed, with Speaker not voting. And we do have an adopted agenda for our fall council session. And we will provide those new copies without the draft written on there. Vice Chair Simonson?
Thank you, Speaker Curley, Ihihat, and honorable colleagues. I'd like to suspend floor rules, and I'd like to just accept number 4, 5, and 6 as written reports.
Thank you, Vice Chair Simonson. We'll update that board here. There is a motion to suspend floor rules, accepting items 4, 5, and 6 as written reports. And according to our Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, that is Rule 24. The motion to suspend the floor rules shall not carry unless passed by a 2/3 vote of the full membership of the council, so it would require 16 votes. Colleagues, is there a second? Second by Honorable Damon. We do have a motion and a second on the floor, colleagues. Are there any comments or questions on the motion to suspend floor rules? Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate the request or the motion to suspend the floor rules. However, I am asking the motioning and the second, specifically the second, to remove the State of the Nation address from the President of the Navajo Nation. Speaker, I make that request because that report is given to the entire Navajo people. We haven't got any updates on the 1,000 Home Initiative, where he's at in the process. We also haven't gotten an update really from his office with what is going on with the ARPA spending. We haven't got any updates on what's going on with the housing crisis, with what's happening with veterans and how he's planning to address this. This is our opportunity as delegates to ask questions. I don't mind the written report from the Speaker and from the Chief Justice. However, because we have people who are listening in online, especially because of the report provided by the President, I'd like to ask that we remove that part and give the President the opportunity to report to Council and to the Navajo people what he has been working on with the last 9 months in office. Thank you, Speaker. I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 3:41. There is a request for modification to delete items 4 as written reports, and I will give that decision back to the motioning party of the suspension of floor rules. Vice Chair Simonson.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. I don't mean any.
Seconding party concurs. Thank you. Honorable Dr. Inez on this motion to suspend floor rules.
Yes, thank you, Speaker, and I'm glad that's been removed too, because that would just be ludicrous of the council not to hear, and the people across the Navajo Nation and abroad, and I enjoy saying abroad because we have military personnel and families globally. So thank you for removing the president. I also have questions, and I think that there's a lot of updates that he has to provide to the Navajo Nation, especially when it comes to his staff and working with the legislative branch. So the other request, I think, can also be the removal of Report 6, receive report from the Speaker of the Navajo Nation Council. I think just as equally as the executive side, that our Navajo Nation people also should receive some of the updates and highlights from the legislative branch. And if this is a concern of time, you know, for me as a delegate, I mark out a lot of my entire week for council, and a lot of my meetings occur early in the mornings or into the later evening time. But if this is about having to conserve our time, perhaps I can caution our colleagues to just ask your questions directly, or if it's something that's impacting your community specifically. I know President does give, his staff gives out available dates and times periodically so that you're able to check in. So, you know, if that's the case, then just kind of know that and be able to take advantage of those opportunities as well. But again, I'm glad the State of the Nation is off, but my second request would just also to remove the report from the Speaker as well and just accept Chief Justice of the Navajo Nation's written report. Thank you. I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 3:12. There is a request on the floor for modification. Vice Chair Simonson.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. And I will reluctantly concur.
Second party, you're okay with that modification? Honorable Naaman? Second party concurs. Colleagues, the updated language is up here on the board. Are there any other additional questions or comments for the motion to suspend floor rules? And we will go back to reserve time. We have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton with 3 minutes and 41 seconds.
Thank you. I'm good as long as the president gives his address, Speaker. For that, I'll go ahead and waive the rest of my time.
Thank you, Chair. Waives the rest of our time. We have Honorable Dr. Inez with 3 minutes and 12 seconds.
Hakushi Ahiat to the motioning parties. Let's get to work. Thank you. I waive my time.
Honorable Nez waives the rest of his time. Colleagues, we do have a motion and a second for a motion to suspend floor rules. And a reminder, it will require a 2/3 vote of the full council. Second call for comments or questions. Third call, going to the board. 2 minutes on the board. Honorable Arvizo, Honorable Jesus, Honorable Jesus votes green. And for the record, we do have 4 excused absences. We have Chair James, Honorable So, Honorable Nota, and Honorable Karate. Colleagues, we do have the full vote here from the council floor. That's a vote of 16 in favor, 0 opposed, with speaker not voting. So the motion to suspend floor rules does carry. Colleagues, we are on number 4, receive the State of the Nation address from the President of the Navajo Nation. Again, State of the Nation address from the President of the Navajo Nation. President, are you here with us in the council chamber? Yeah. Oh, I would like also to recognize NAU President Cruz Rivera, who is on the north side of the council chamber. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Okay. First call, President of the Navajo Nation. Second call, President of the Navajo Nation. Third call. All right, we're going down the line to number 5 is accepted as a written report. And number 6, receiving report from the Speaker of the Navajo Nation Council. Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, could you do me the honors of doing pro temping for me?
Good morning, good morning. Just an FYI, we do have a walk that just concluded outside. We are now moving forward to receive the report from the Speaker of the Navajo Nation Council. The Speaker is present. Can I get a motion and a second to receive the report? Motion made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo, second made by Chair Brenda Jesus. We do have the Speaker who is available to provide her report. I will be serving as Speaker Pro Tem during this time. We'll go ahead and give the Speaker 20 minutes on the clock at this time to provide her report. Speaker Curley, are you ready to provide your report?
Oh, Shaja.
Okay, with that, Speaker Curley, the floor is yours. Motion was made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo, second by Chair Brenda Jesus. Speaker, the floor is yours.
Yate nana ade Nel yao yahagito ade da isnalt agi Ado she Crystal and Curly nishya Sanjikina nishle Twa headlini bashish chin Kia ani da she che do ziltrati kia ani dashanale What amato a son and nishle Adonele Slohan holy had net yisi adet nasha adet ishike Ado amato ama nishli do kon hat and hit deshni Ade kon shot the anigito kwaegi 2023 Fall Council Session Speakers Report hatniniki kodon hitale deshli Ado tatna zilibik dinch ike talanato talagaides ado bistot Asian deshki jetes nazlaneto tak ehlane what alto atishananish beshbatas anishlon Ado kwaegi nal sauce and kitch a kolia di at kom nikilta inishiki tabaka ado kon pleje speakers office da inishiki because energy elto aje mehatel nishiki elto hot bi baka ado di etsahegi yaha and hide deshni kon beshbadas anitani kliniki is a konzache nahast nach ntezit kon 25th Navajo Nation Council dan hit no hina nashdel edel ako shinash on nishnago elhindel nashton dahwit ako adon le ntahost iko edat eheki bandet konzache kolji ako ba he edne ako hen hit deshni kodo Ado di raje di the neck etche bansi keso he nana he di johan leo johana hanana za di ani digi ko belagana etche go happy new year's hat nitle what bansis kesto what shit the nesalto di kwaigi hojisen do hat ila ban Ela had benadishnis single kodo report in Haishla. And I think as anybody else who recognizes New Year's in Navajo Nation, New Year's is in October. So we did have a new moon back on the 14th, and that is a time to reflect upon ourselves and also the direction that we want to carry out within this next new year. So what this do what should change nationals ko what do being done so there's an Elia honne hojonje so there's an kha Elia ko shin ko New Year's hat niniki enjinoko ikin deal nesto di go yahanane je egi enjinoko hinan neston tahit adon na deal kit ado nal sos begata na dit ahi belana ta itleto lel what shapa with the nosen do lel adeshik eta isnalt aki ado over the weekend I had picking pinions that's each day of it now just give me patience. I know it's pinion season. I think I was supposed to brush them with a wire brush. And as we come into our fall session, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do my speaker's report. This is the first time I'm doing my speaker's report with the 20 minutes. So it's I feel very honored for my colleagues for allowing me this time. John le do touches da o la to kinatle o kinalo ya da tito na dikitle a koseta hagi by Henson. And ado di to not din nes nana he not nes nana nes natin na he kon besh patas an de nisho. And we are still celebrating our 100th year anniversary within our Navajo Nation Council. Jo koje yahajigaho hone howanamaze nahaleno ado di begin dash alto Kuje and Jonago Nalsos Bakao Nash 1922 Bakao Ade Ndahas Ndahao in Hastuidon Hizani Shin Hota Di Quagi Bento Neshto Behazani Tatol Net Hash Shin Hat no Quagi Navajo Nation Council Hadilia Elto Baaheta Nitsen. And we are thankful to be here as the 25th Navajo Nation Council. And I think this is a very important time in history, 100 years at no centennial event. And I think we are all here for a purpose. Jo hota chudilzen go ka otlanchi anil ton ka hello. So we are here for a purpose. We are here for a reason in this day and time as the 100th anniversary. So I want to thank my colleagues for, it's a very honor to be serving with you, each and every one of you within this 100 years. And we want to leave a legacy for the next 100 years for our children and our grandchildren. Hala Nike yo neto kon halchine Ziego and Junogo Yanda Zinto Tanitzen in the next 100 years. So those are my opening comments of my speaker's report. Ado Honesto Ziego Coton Junogo Ashilanda Dil Nesh Adon Hizat Ebizil Edati Nisle Esto Alkahnitzen do Quaki Adel Tisle. Although the Office of the Speaker has anje the August policies, procedures hatniniki belata azli, and in English we would say Office of the Speaker's plans of operation. John laid that 100 years that the nisle high heads on not the initiative nisle although had ila yindal nish the quagi political appointees dan linigish heads nan tindo heads and I was really happy to put this plans of operation together with the team here. And within every budget season, when we went through the budget, you could see the outline of when the last plans of operations were done, were amended, were created. So within the Office of the Speaker, it briefly mentions it into Title II, but with the Nabikiyatik Committee approving the official plans of operations. So hopefully whoever is taking my lead within the next administrations or so, at least that the new speaker will have that foundation to guide the staff and the administrative processes. And one of the significant things that is highlighted within the plans of operation is security detail. John Leje what's Atsilete, President, do Vice President, what's Njuko Bahaya, Dean Hisalau Ba Dahwilia. And Kojepesh Padasanitani Kliniki Atin Hetent, and we didn't have any type of established legislative protection services or security detail. John Le Sergeant Arms Ain Hello Di Yane Jahonda Konkilta Halonle. But on the spare time of during the weeks of standing committee's work, we're really happy to implement that. Kotojo Dinat Ani Tani Tliniki to Den Haltehiki and Hahasti. What's up on this case? What's up? So Hatilia, what's up? Behaz Ani, Lopibuka. And we look forward to introducing more policies, internal policies within the legislative branch. I know it is a huge task, and I very appreciate from the support and also the directive that was given by Chair James to start doing analysis of creating a legislative branch human And a lot of the times we need clear guidance on how to, protect our staff and guide our staff, because most of the time when we're in here within council session, they work after 5, they work during the weekends, and they have just unique challenges within the legislative branch, especially during budget season. So we're going to go look into that to see if it is feasible to create our own HR department underneath the legislative branch. And it also goes down to media policies. That one is going through our legal review. Even in here, these paintings within the council chambers is historic. And there's means of way of preserving these paintings through lighting, through camera usage. In regards to ARPA funding, I know we have been working continuously, especially within all the standing committees, of the direction of expending the ARPA dollars. I know we have a strict timeline. John Leyte, Besho, Washington, then Hitchest, Aniki, it's Kinslo Chito, Edo, Behoton, Nitzen. And we want to push a lot of our chapter projects, and within each of us here, the 24 delegates, we each got 8.8 million. And those are directly going to the chapters, and the chapters have been presenting some of the priorities or projects. Agenda and during this session we will be approving more of those. So we can continue to monitor all of those, but I know one thing that needs to happen is having a leadership meeting among the president and vice president to really see if a lot of these dollars are feasible and how much has been encumbered, and if there's any timelines. Well, we beat that timeline. That we need to start thinking of those avenues. So I know each of my colleagues have been working very hard to push a lot of their chapter projects. And trying to do regional meetings within these past 8 months. So congratulations to all the chapters and the delegates who continue to work on a lot of those eligibility forms and projects moving forth. Legislative branch peso for ARPA that some of those ARPA funding for the legislative branch will be going through HVAC improvements of the buildings. Heating, cooling. I know we've been just operating off of home heaters and air conditionings that we just roll in here. So some of those projects will be outlining within those types of heating and cooling, and also the Wi-Fi and the network upgrade. So right now we're doing that assessment on what is really needed on the campus. It won't send to our legislative services. It gets stuck in the cloud somewhere. So those proposed plans will be coming to you forth as underneath the Nabik Committee. And also, the legislative branch employees, I am myself as a speaker, I know we're observing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it's a very sensitive subject, and one of the priorities that we put forth is that the legislative branch will continue to do mandatory sexual harassment training once a year. I know the other branches are once every 2 years, just because of how much it is important to myself and a lot of my colleagues here that it's staying at once a year. I think I have 5 minutes left, and also want to thank all of my colleagues for passing the 2024 comprehensive budget. I know with the Budget and Finance Committee has taken a unique approach of allocating dollars, and it went so smoothly, and we did approve our budget, and some things that are included were never done before. And it was great to see that little changed within our comprehensive budget. I know we really thought about the local level, trying to decentralize Window Rock. That was one of the goals within our budget. President and also Chief Justice, thank you for being able to sit down together and doing our 3-branch budget agreement. In regards to water rights, I know that we have been pressing hard the 25th Navajo Nation Council weekly and monthly. I know my colleagues do try to get to those update meetings on all the strategies and all the options that we have, but overall our goal is to secure our water rights. And I had the privilege of an honor of also testifying at the U.S. Senate to the Committee of Indian Affairs on Clean Water Access as well. Within the Black Mesa region, with the Central region, and that's a passion of mine, is to continue to advocate for clean water for our Navajo Nation. And in regards to the missing and murdered Diné Relatives Task Force, I really commend Honorable Crotty for transitioning that into the 25th Navajo Nation Council. So our contact person within the Office of the Speaker is Nlotsa Jim, and who will be providing those administrative assistances, and also the same with the Diné Action Plan Work Group. And another area that within the past 3 months that have been getting a lot of traction is the RECA amendments, the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. So currently at the congressional level, we do have 2 bills, Senate Bill 1751 and House Bill 4426. So that in hopes of extending the compensation program for our uranium workers. John Leje Leitso Jin da Nishe et oh hayu atin den hitene but hashit ajini pata ho John Le Leitso Je Yindal Nisho atin de kote shikato jahto ha ila en hinat ani hashit yan sata case hat nile. And I really want to thank Honorable Crotty that did pass during the Nabikiya ticket last week to support those 2 bills that are going through Congress, and that is in hopes to extend the RECA amendments in the compensation program. And in regards to Chaco Canyon, thank you, Honorable Simpson, for teaching me that in Navajo word, Johot'a nailna hatnile adenek eche keyachajo. And to Chaco Canyon, we want to say that we still have the council resolution, Nabikiya Tik council resolution, that is still in opposition of the land withdrawal. So we continue to support our Resources and Development Committee within that initiative. And just overall, whatever passes through council, Nabikiya Tik, and the committees, that allows me to advocate on behalf of your priorities. And that gives myself as a speaker a direction on what to advocate for, both at the chapter level, at the state level, and also at the federal level. So I really appreciate all the work that has been done by my colleagues of dropping legislations, and it gives us a clear direction of where we need to go as a people.
nal tos be gata na di tahi ainge na go be lata di tlel.
Thank you for your presentation, Speaker. Per Rule 10 of the Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, under G, you are given 20 minutes to present. Your time has exceeded. Now we go ahead and turn the floor over to our colleagues, to the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Are there any questions regarding the report that has been provided to us by Speaker Crystalline Curley? The verbal report has been provided as well as a written report. Are there any questions or any comments at this time? We do have a person in the queue. Vice Chair Slater, the floor is yours. Did we do a motion in the second on that? Okay.
Good morning, Speaker Pro Tem Charles Newton. Good morning, Speaker Curley. Good morning, colleagues, to everyone here in the gallery. And Speaker Curley, I got a couple items I'd like to cover with you. One of them is under the report on the budget. There's a few incorrect items. It says we allocated $35 million to chapter utility payments. And I think it's $3.5 million. So that, in addition to calling our chairwoman instead of woman, there's quite a few typos throughout this entire document, and I just hope that as your leadership progresses, you're able to hold staff accountable in ensuring that these documents, they're reflective of the entire council, and I would expect that they are clearly proofread and put together so that all the great work that you and the legislative branch are doing and that this council is doing is reflected properly and appropriately to our people. And the descriptions of some of the budget items too aren't accurate. So, Chair Parrish and I are definitely available to help advise or clarify things, but ultimately it's up to your staff to be paying attention to what the council is doing and reporting it factually. Second, I see that there aren't all the programs that are under the legislative branch reflected in the report, and I wonder what's going on there. I see that Eastern Navajo Land Commission's not included. I think if we're going to release it and we don't have a report from them, then we need to provide a notification to the people saying there are activities being performed. We'll have a better update the next quarter, but I know that if this was presented to us from the executive branch where we're missing programs within the document, we'd be having a conniption fit. So I think we should have the consistency internally to hold our legislative branch programs accountable. Now, with respect to the Office of Auditor General, I still have, I think, 3 chapters that are waiting for responses back from OAG on their corrective action plans. We really need that in order to pursue chapter certification. And so I just ask that you touch base with the delegated director or delegated auditor general and get some movement for our directors in the Cheska Regional Council. Second, I'd like to request that you direct or advise the Cheska Regional Council and myself on how the Office of Navajo Government Development can advise us. We put in a legislation request to regionalize services and essentially authorize a certified chapter for the Cheska Regional Council directly under the ASC and the Division of Community Development. And we're getting stonewalled by the Office of Legislative Counsel. We can't even add Rough Rock back into our regional council right now. And I wonder if government development could assist the Office of Legislative Counsel in developing that legislation. I think that it's admirable to look at reform across the entire Navajo Nation, but when you have groups of communities that are interested in trying alternative forms of government or something innovative, that might be the better future. Instead of trying to do a comprehensive reform all across the board, but empowering regional communities to actually take on and devolve those powers from Window so that we can deliver services in a better manner. So that's a request to you, if you could advise us on how to make that happen, because the legislation's not being produced, and I know that the Office of Legislative Counsel is, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but they have hundreds of requests and they need assistance with that. And that'll wrap up most of my comments, but I do want to express my appreciation to you, Speaker, for issuing the press release and taking leadership on behalf of the Navajo Nation related to the shooting that took place in Espanola. It's an issue about protecting our Diné citizens who live off the Navajo Nation and operate and have to do things in border towns and communities where they're not the majority and they're not being served by Navajo Nation police. And I think that we need to continue to monitor that situation, both to make sure that justice is served, but also to look at ways, and this should probably be with the Human Rights Commission, on how we can protect our citizens. Now, this is right down the street from the sheriff's office. It was just right there, and yet there still was a shooting that took place. So why weren't our people being protected in Española? Is it because they're Navajo? Is it because they're Navajo and they're there with Pueblo relatives? Those are the things that we need to look at, and I hope that you could ping the Human Rights Commission to stay involved in that issue. With that, I'll yield the rest of my time, and if you provide a response now, I appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll follow up on these items. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair Slater. Speaker, there's nobody else in the queue at this time, so I'll go ahead and turn the floor back over to you for a response. Speaker, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vice Chair Slater, for those questions and for clarification. That was a typo, 3.5 million. Thank you for catching that. And in regards to the speaker's report, there are about 2 or 3 that programs that didn't meet the deadline, so we did extend deadlines twice to some of our legislative branch program summaries. So we're working on redoing the whole template for the speaker's report. So hopefully in the next quarter, it'll follow a different format for the speaker's report. So I know it does, at least within 2 pages, highlight of each of the programs. In regards to Auditor General, we can always sit down and put her on the Nabik Committee report as well. I know there's not only, there's several of our chapters and also offers, even Speaker's Office and Office of Legislative Services that are still waiting on audits and also corrective action plans, so we can get a thoroughly update through Nabik. And then the same with the Human Rights Commission. I know the Human Rights Commission has been doing great work within this past quarter. I know it highlights some of the great areas within the report, but we can also put that down for Human Rights Commission. I know that was a former request by Honorable Daniels too, in regards to some of the issues that at the time of a current issue, but we can always put that on Nabik Committee within this next quarter. In regard to Cheska Regional Council, I'm more than willing to assist with that. I do believe Rough Rock, I know they do stayed at that position before, even with the school itself as well. So I'll be looking forward to make that communication work with you with the Cheska Regional Council, so we can work on that, Vice Chair Slater. Thank you again for your questions.
Thank you for that, Speaker Curley. Does that conduct the response to Vice Chair Slater? Is that complete? I guess I should say complete. Are there any other questions or comments at this time to the Speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, Speaker Crystalline Curley? Going once? Going twice? Okay, let's go ahead and go for a vote, roll call vote to accept the report that has been provided to us by the Speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, Ms. Crystalline Curley. Motion was made by Delegate Stephen Arvizo. Second was made by Chair Brenda Jesus. Colleagues, you do have 2 minutes to vote to accept the report from Speaker Crystalline Curley. Staff, can you assist us with roll call vote, please? Delegate Daniels, Speaker Damon, Delegate Tolf, Delegate Yazzie, Delegate Parrish, Thank you, colleagues. With a vote of 14 in favor, 0 opposed, 6 who are not voting. We have currently absent from the vote Delegate Lamardo Asseret, Delegate Norman Begay, Delegate Shandine Parrish, Delegate Sherilyn Yazzie, and Delegate George Tolf, who are absent from the vote. 4 who are excused, Delegate Amber Crotty, Chair Vince James, Delegate Nathan Nota, and Speaker Otto So. Thank you, Speaker, for your report. I'm going to turn the gavel back over to you at this time.
Thank you, colleagues, for giving me the opportunity to do number 6, receive report from the Speaker of the Navajo Nation. And next, moving down, we have number 7, receive financial report from the Controller. Controller, are you here with us? Honorable Arvizo.
Madam Speaker, 25th Navajo Nation Council, if I may request a suspension of the floor rules to bring in our Navajo Nation President to proceed with his report at this time, if I am in order, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Arvizo. There is a motion for suspension of floor rules, and that is within Council Rules of Order, Rule 24. So it will require a 2/3 vote of the full membership of the council. Is there a second? Going twice. Going 3 times. There's no second, colleagues. All right, controller. Receiving financial report from the controller, Mr. McCabe. Going Honorable Slater. Going twice for the controller of the Navajo Nation. We have Mr. Rob Willie here with us. I'm sorry, Mr. Willie, we had to make you run. Colleagues, we do have Mr. Rob Willie here with us in the chamber. Colleagues, will we be having questions, comments? If so, press your request to speak. Okay. Do we have a motion? Motion by Honorable Simpson. Second. Second by Honorable Dr. Andy Nez. So we will have question. Mr. Willie, you will have 20 minutes on the board.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, members of the Navajo Nation Council. It's my pleasure to be here today. Mr. McCabe is currently on his way, and he's been ill, but he's well enough to make it here today, so he should be here shortly, just to let you know. Before you is the Navajo Nation's Controller's Report for the fall session, October 2023. Hopefully, the document had been sent out to all of your emails late last night, early this morning. So that's the document that I'll be going over. So the first item is the controller's highlights for the fourth quarter. For the record, my name is Robert Willie. I'm the accounting manager for Office of the Controller, and I've been with the nation for about 21 years. So the highlights for the fourth quarter are, of course, the Navajo Nation budget was signed and passed by the Navajo Nation Council back in September. So we have a budget for this fiscal year. Also, during the fourth quarter, the financial audit had been completed. It had been hampered by different issues, but we were able to complete it and get it passed by the Navajo Nation Council in September. Also, the single audit had been completed and sent to the funding agencies also too. So that has been completed, and we'll be looking forward to the next audit, which will be beginning January 2024. The controller wanted to let you know that we've completed the RFQ for the new governmental financial system. A team has been pulled together, and we'll be reviewing these documents as we go along, and he'll keep you updated on those issues. The fiscal year 2023 closing is currently underway. My office, the general accounting and contract accounting, are closing the books. We will be finalizing that on October 27th, I believe. A final report will be sent over to Office of Management and Budget, and we'll be happy to provide that to you also in all the closing numbers for all the business units in mid-November. The controller wanted you to know that the simplified ARPA sub-recipient agreement process has been simplified. So to make it easier for the sub-recipients to receive their dollars, and that's been in the works because the process had been a little bit complex. There are exhibits that are attached to his report. Exhibit A actually shares, Exhibit A1 is the CARES funding, which was the first federal funding that we got for the coronavirus. Those are all the closeout numbers that are provided on Exhibit A1. On A2 are the ARPA funds, and those are quite numerous. There's a bunch, so it does show each one of the business units that have been set up as of September 30th, so you can review those at your leisure. Also, the Sihasin Fund for 2023 August, those numbers had been completed also, and the unappropriated balance of that is $153,760,000.
$776,618 as of August 31st. And if you'd like a complete report of that one, I can also send that one out to the Navajo Nation Council. The Controller's Office financial information as of the fourth quarter is also on the report. Payroll section had run 3,248 checks as of the fourth quarter and processed 24,901 direct deposits, and the total dollar amount is also available right there. The accounts payable section has run 17,472 checks and ACH payments for a total dollar amount of $149,797,088 during these last 3 months of the fourth quarter. The general fund financial data for the general fund revenue is also provided there. The breakdown of the oil and gas revenue is provided. There's also an exhibit. Exhibit B will show you the general fund revenues. Total revenues collected as of September 30th is $287,105,618 gross. There were set-asides of $63,667,750 for a grand total of $223,437,868. And there was a permanent fund revenue that was transferred in fiscal year 2023, and that total dollar amount was $67,911,000. So the grand total of the general fund was $291,348,868 that had been collected and is being used for FY23. Exhibit C will show you a breakdown of each of the branches as of September 30th. Mind you that these numbers are still currently pending, so there are ongoing transactions for these branches. But the legislative branch did have a revised budget of $23,597,773. The actual expenditures are $15,346,417. There were encumbrances of $1.6 million, so the budget remaining was $6.6. Executive branch had $209 million revised budget. They had spent $142 million. Encumbrances of $15.4 were reserved, and there was a balance of $51,644,816. The judicial branch had a revised budget of $19.7 million. Actual expenditures of $12.9, $37,000 in encumbrances, and a remaining budget of $6.7 million. Fixed costs during FY23 had a revised budget of $36 million. Actual expenditures were $31 million. There were encumbrances of $3.8, so there was a remaining budget of $1.6. The grand total of the general fund revised budget was $189 million. Actual expenditures were $201.6. There were total contracts encumbered of $20.9. So there was a remaining budget of $66.6. As I stated, that the numbers are still going through the process, so there's still one payroll that has not been included in this, and any other payments that belong to FY23 are being accrued back into that year currently. So that deals with the branches. Coming up to the next exhibit is the undesignated unreserved fund balance. This was calculated as of September 22nd, which would include the audit that had just been completed, plus the budget that did also pass. So going through the schedule, there's a complete breakdown showing you of how the amounts were arranged. The EUFB balance as of last fiscal year, 9/30/2022, was $220.1 million, and this ties to the audit. There was a reserve in the budget resolution last year of $20 million of the EUFB. There was an amount of the permanent fund that was transferred into the general fund, which was $21.2 million. The next portion are the supplementals that had passed during fiscal year 2023. Those totaled out to $11.2 million. Within the new budget resolution, there was an external cash match amount that had to be reserved, and that was $7.8 million. The minimum fund balance for the upcoming year is going to be $23,698,064. And the anticipated closing entries that are happening currently, we're estimating it to be $12.5 million. So the total of that was 43.9. So our balance as of 9/30/2023 is $166,181,296. Controller McCabe also wanted to add in an estimation of the revenues and the expenditures, the net, plus any fair value of the investments that are within the general fund. So those are those numbers right there. So we're anticipating $154.2 million excess in revenue, and the decrease in the fair value of the investments is 159. The audited permanent fund supplemental of 38 million will be added also, so that all totals out to $40.8 million. There's a 10% calculation contingency to for any errors within the calculation of 20.9. So our projected UUFB balance is $188,160,284. And the last bit of information within the controller's report is the master trust and the retirement performance. I know that this is really small. I tried to make it bigger also too on my printout, but all the information for the master trust and the retirement are within this spreadsheet. And I can reformat it and see if I can make it bigger and send it out to the leadership also. So that consists, that is all that entails the controller's report at this time. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions. Honorable Speaker and members of the Navajo Nation Council, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willie, for your report. Colleagues, I'm going to go down the line for comments and questions on the report given. First, we have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Willie, for providing the report. I honestly have only one question, and I hope that you can break it down, like dumb it down as best as you can for me, because I'm not the smartest or the brightest delegate here. But explain to me why the Navajo Nation continues to pay its bills late. What is the issue, and how can we, as the 25th Navajo Nation Council, how can we change the laws to address that? I can constantly get text messages, emails, phone calls from vendors, you know, from people that we do business with that tell me that we're not paying our bills on time. So I just need to know if you can like break down the process for me, even if you could draw the whole diagram and the patterns and the way that everything flows through your office, just so that I can explain that properly to them. Because usually what I'm doing is I'm forwarding those directly to your office, and I just get a response saying we'll be in contact. So explain that to me, Mr. William. I know that you're really great at explaining things, so just dumb it down as best as you can for me. I'd really appreciate it. I reserve my time, Speaker.
Reserve time of 3:42. I don't see anybody else in queue, so I'm going to return the floor back over to Mr. Willie.
Thank you, Honorable Eugene Charles Newton, excuse me, and Honorable Speaker. I believe that the controller says that he's online right now. I'm not sure if you're able to connect him, if that's possible.
Colleagues, as a reminder, I think one of the directives that I got from the Etiquette Committee was to have all presenters and agents present during the fall council session. So Mr. Willie, he would have to provide that response.
Okay, that's fine. So in answer to your question, there are a number of different issues depending on what type of payment it is. So if there's a contract, I know that there are certain situations in which contracts have not been completed, but the vendor is actually performing the services, and I believe this would be a liability to the nation if there was some fault on any of the items that were supposed to be part of the scope of work. But if the contract is not completed, payment cannot take place. So that's one of the issues. Another one of the issues is payments not being submitted timely. I know that in certain situations, some of the programs turn in their documents and they're not complete. If they're not complete, we try to work with the program to get the documents that are needed to complete the payment. I know that there are emergency type situations that happen, and we work as closely as we can with the programs, depending on what the situation is. I know that we tried very, very hard to help Chinle chapter when the flood happened. In those instances, we had to have the program work with the entity to try to get that payment document to our office. So there's the type of situations, and we can draw up essentially a flow chart for who is all interested within it also too, to provide to you all. And then there are times when it's our fault, when there are documents that are lost. And I do believe that the accounts payable section and the contract accounting section do make apologies for that and try their best to make sure that the payments do get processed. Because I know that a lot of vendors do need these payments, and we do try to make sure that the elderly, the electricity, those type of payments are made. There are other instances where if a program doesn't have enough money, there's budget transfers and those type of issues. But I'm not sure of the percentages, but those are the type of issues that we face when we're processing payments. And that's what I've got for now. And we can research the question a little bit more also too, and then provide more clarity on that also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willie, for your responses. Next in queue, we have Honorable Johnson.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. Good afternoon, Mr. Willie. Thank you for being here with us today. My question is, why do we still use money orders to pay Navajo Nation? It's ridiculous. You know, it just, you know, whether paying for child care or a speeding ticket, or, you know, you're having us, you know, our constituents going to these places to buy a money order. You know, we should be using our phones, we should be using our, you know, cards. We should be able to use that. So I think we need to just stop with the money orders. So I'd like to get an explanation as to why we're still in the past. I reserve my time.
Reserve time of 3:55. Ado Shache, Honorable Toth, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Aro beswas anit koro na tishkil. This pertains to Deltex, also other issues regards to paying the bill. Mr. Willie, we are having problems with Deltex. A lot of contract from state of New Mexico hasn't been signed. So last week my senior center was closed, and they're short of funds because the contract hasn't gone through your section. I don't know who is at fault. This have been an issue ever since I joined the Navajo Council on Aging back in 2015. Always goes back to OOC or OMB. That process is, I don't know how we can change it, because the bill has to be paid and our elderly needs to eat. Why are we closing the senior center? Because of the process. It shouldn't be happening. So who is at fault and who can we change that somehow? why can't you give the money to Deltex? They can manage from there instead of having money run out. Also, the insurance, every year the van's always been, parked because the process, the money to pay for the insurance, it's I don't know, I don't understand, sir. This is the first time. We'll probably have to visit your office and look at what is the holdup. So we're giving our elderlies a hard time. Not only that program, other programs. It's always at OOC. Any paperwork, the contracts, OOC. I understand there's a shortage of people, but how can we expedite these requests so our elderly, they need to eat? Because some of our elderlies are by themselves, and when they go to senior center, there's congregated. Ako kwebch iyabat tenodo besteda and yao senior center now. So I know HASI committee's been on the health department, Deltex. We're going to meet with the Deltex program next week, HASI committee. We wanted to know how we can extradite these requests. It comes back to us as a leader, and they call us and say, hey, our budget has been on hold, it hasn't been approved. So some of these money are just going back. So how can we extradite? What system can we give them, a debit card or something so they can buy food so the elders can eat? So my chapter 2 days that El Kal, and it's nonsense to having this program closed. So I advocate for my elderlies throughout the 110th chapter. Right now, there's nobody monitored that Deltex, and hopefully when we meet with division director, we can arm some of these. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Toth. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else in queue, and we will go back to Mr. Willie for your responses.
Thank you. In answer to Honorable Johnson's question, as far as why do we still take money orders? So in the past, we did only require money orders because personal checks would bounce. But I can see your thoughts of why don't we use credit card machines. And I know that we are going toward that. Some of the programs actually have those within their departments. I think Fish and Wildlife and Veterinary had those machines put in place. I'd have to get together with, if there are tickets, to see from the agencies, the courts, and work with cashiers to see if we could get those set up there. And I know that there's some fees related to that, but I've always advocated for the same thing. So like, for let's say example, credit services, if you're able to pay it online, like I used to have to pay my student loan online, and I was able to look up my own balance, which was a lot more convenient for me. But it seems like bringing a check in and getting that posted does take some time, and it does impede interest also too. But we'll start looking into that situation and try to work with judicial and the courts on that, and give you an update on that one too, sir. As far as Honorable Tolt's question, as far as Daltech, I know that there have been numerous issues throughout the years. I know that we've provided supplemental appropriations using general funds to avoid this type of situation and make spending a little bit more easier. The problem with that is that you're not spending the state money. So at the end of the year, you're not reporting. So I guess it would be twofold also. So if they're saying that the contract is sitting at Office of the Controller, if we could get information on that, and then we could look up when it got sent over and how long the process is taking, that would help. But working together, I think, would be the best solution as far as getting the process in place. As far as putting blame on other programs, blame on OOC, blame on that program, I think we should start working together and not looking at who to blame, but how do we fix this together? Perhaps during your session at HES, you can invite both Office of the Controller and Deltec to sit down at the table and then work out some of these issues. As far as OMB also too, so I know in the beginning when the new funding is being set up for Deltex, OMB plays a part in that, in contracts and grants under Cordell Shorty's shop. So bringing them to the table also would help. But I believe that maybe running reports and then keeping not only the HES committee but the Navajo Nation Council updated on different funding sources. So if you look at it every month and make sure that the program is spending their money, and if they're not, getting explanations every quarter why we're not spending would be a good idea to also have that. So I'm going to write that down as one of my key items, which maybe we could provide as a quarterly report. That way you can see if the program is spending their money or not, and if not, we can get the answers why. And as far as the insurance, I know that during the budget season, Office of Management and Budget did have the OES, that's the Underwriter's Exposure Summary, available on their website. So each program needs to fill that out and then provide all their property in order to get the renewal of the insurance. So that document is sent to risk management, and then once they assess it, they actually send the bill to the program for them to pay it in order for them to get the insurance cards. So that's the process as far as insurance goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willie, for your responses, colleagues. We do have one in queue. We have Chair Jesus.
Yeah, Madam Speaker Shadeja, honoring the members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Willie for presenting on behalf of Controller McCabe. Mr. Willie, I just wanted to put this on your radar. A couple of weeks ago, Resources and Development Committee was fortunate enough to travel out to the ranch out in Colorado. And since property management is under the supervision of Office of the Controller, we wanted to schedule a meeting in regards to some of the property that is out at the ranch. In this case, it would be the vehicles. I know that oftentimes a lot of the department and divisions, when they get vehicles approved through the Motor Vehicle Review Board, they can get new vehicles depending on the mileage on the vehicles. And I know that the ranch staff out at Wolf Springs have been utilizing these vehicles, and I believe there were vehicles that were purchased with the offer that was made to Navajo Nation when the purchase was made, I believe, back in 2017. And right now, the vehicles currently do not run. So again, it is property of the Navajo Nation. And this is where it was noted as a concern as to why property management with the Navajo Nation did not really take ownership in those properties that are utilized by our Navajo Nation employees up in Colorado. And I just wanted to put this on your radar that going forward, we will definitely have a meeting and see how we can rectify this issue in hopes that the ranch out in Colorado get 2 new vehicles as it is really needed, because right now both of the 2 vehicles that they were utilizing is not even running at all. And at the cost that they were given, it's probably best just to get them replaced rather than having to buy a whole new diesel engine for both of the diesel trucks that are out there. So again, Mr. Willie, and just put this on your radar with your staff with Office of the Controller and Property Management. Thank you. I waive the rest of my time, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Jesus, for your comments and questions. At this time, I turn the floor back over to Mr. Willie.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Jesus, also, too, for the update as far as the property on the Colorado Ranch. I know that when the Colorado Ranch was purchased, that property did go up there at that time. I'm not sure if all the assets had been booked. I guess we need to run the asset listing for that property. And I know that Colorado Ranch is enterprise fund, so if they do have need to purchase a new vehicle, I believe they may have the funding to do that within their own fund. But I'll keep you updated on that also too. And I'll make property management and the controller aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willie, for your responses, colleagues. I'm going to go back to reserve time. We have Vice Chair Johnson with 3 minutes and 55 seconds.
Thank you, Speaker. Okay, Mr. Willie, what's the timeline we can go ahead and make this happen? I do agree with you, we to work with you and work together on this, and if there's need our help, just let us know, and I would like to get this going. And I did ask the former controller this same question, why are we still using money orders? So it's been going on several months now, but I appreciate it though, to give us an update when you can. Thank you. Waive the rest of my time.
Vice Chair Johnson waives the rest of his time. Colleagues, I have one more reserved time. We have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton with 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you thank you, Speaker, for allowing me to speak at this time. I appreciate the Mr. Willie kind of explaining, I guess, in general what happens. It would be great if I could get like that flow chart. I don't know if other delegates want it as well, but we seem to it just makes us look really bad when we're not paying our bills on time. And then I know that when employees leave, that same thing happens to them as well. It takes a while for them to actually get paid out, for their last check. And I think that there's no excuse for that, and I'm not putting it all on the controller's office. I'm just trying to figure out like how this whole process works, so that when people contact us as delegates, we'll be able to explain this is the way that it goes. And perhaps it is falling back on the divisions and the departments, but it would just be great to get that explanation, or to get some type of explanation on that. I don't have any other questions, Speaker. But I will say, Speaker, since I've got just a little bit of time, I stepped out for a while to listen to the State of the Nation address. I will say, Speaker, it was really disheartening to hear that, our president is blaming council for not giving him the chance to provide his report. Speaker, I do want to state for the record, we have a seat here that's labeled president. And I know that, I understand he came in after he was called. And I think that you gave him ample time to come in to report to council. And it's very well known, it is even in the council rules, it's within the law, that he's supposed to be here to provide his report. So Speaker, I know that I was in the break room when you called for a second to hear his report. I'm ready to hear his report, and I think if he can say what he wants out there about council, he can certainly say that up here in front of the all the people of the Navajo Nation and all 25 or 24 delegates looking directly at him while he says that, Speaker. So Delegate Arvizo, if you want to make that motion again to suspend the floor rules, I'm here. I'll second. I want to hear what he has to say, and hopefully what the message he delivered out there, he can deliver in here. Thank you, Speaker. I waive.
Thank you, Chair Eugenia Charles Newton waives the rest of her time. Before respond to any of the comments, we'll give Mr. Willie a chance to do any other closing comments, since I don't see anybody else in queue. Mr. Willie?
Thank you. The only closing comments that I have is actually Delegate Charles Newton did bring up when a person leaves the Navajo Nation, that process. We're actually looking at that process right now. Department of Personnel Management, Controller's Office, Payroll, and some of the benefits sections of how the process actually works, and then trying to speed up that process. Hopefully that plus the new processing of the system also may help expedite that process too. So we'll keep you updated on that also too. And thank you very much for letting me present to you all, and hope you have a good session. Thank you, Honorable Speaker and members of the Navajo Nation Council.
Thank you, Mr. Willie, for your closing comments. Honorable Toth, you didn't reserve your time during the questioning, so you don't have any time left. Hagoshi, thank you, colleagues, for having the time to listen to the controller's report from Mr. Willie. And just for acknowledgement, lunch was provided by the Net Development Corporation. So here within the council chambers and also with our audience in the gallery, lunch will be served. So that was provided by the Net Development Corporation. With that, we do have a motion and a second in place. Colleagues, I'm going to go to 2 minutes on the board for a vote to accept the Office of the Controller's report. And with regards to the President of the Navajo Nation, if he does wish to provide his State of the Nation address, the doors are open and his seat is here, and the Vice President as well. So colleagues, I'll leave that up to you if you would like to wish to motion to suspend floor rules, and then we can approach it that way. Just a reminder, it will require a 2/3 vote. And just for the record, when we're doing reports, when the agent or presenter is not here, we do courtesy calls of first call, second call, and third call. So if they're not here within the council chambers, we move on next on item of the agenda. So that is within our council rules of order as well. And that goes the same with legislation sponsors. You know, if you're sponsoring a legislation and you get to that portion of the agenda, if you're not here, we do a second and a third call as well. And then if you're not here, that legislation gets skipped. So that is a precedence that has been practiced for many years within the council. We have less than 30 seconds on the board, colleagues. Honorable Azaret, Honorable Arvizo, Honorable Riquinez, Honorable Damon. The clock did run out, so we'll do a roll call. Honorable Arvizo, votes green. Honorable Azaret, votes green. Honorable Damon, votes green. Honorable Riquinez. Honorable Riquinez votes green. And for the record, we do have 4 excused. We have Honorable James, Honorable So, Honorable Nota, and Honorable Crotty. and 2 not voting. So we do have a vote of 17 in favor, 0 opposed, with speaker not voting. Colleagues, we will move forward with our agenda. Written reports, BIA, IHS, Attorney General, Navajo Nation Youth Advisory Council, standing committees, boards, and commissions, and IHS Area Director. Do we have a motion? Motion by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, second by Arnold Boltlaw. Colleagues, do we have any questions on any of these written reports? Second call. Third call. 2 minutes on the board to accept written reports. Less than 1 minute on the board, colleagues. And just for the record, Jalissa, Ms. Johnson did note that the agenda, the new updated agenda, the purple copy, page 3 of 4. So letter C, legislation 0080-23 was mistakenly put on the agenda. So that should be crossed out or deleted. That is legislation 0080-23. It was referred back to for a request for Nabik Iyatkit report. Okay, and back in Nabik Iyatkit committee, it was deleted off the agenda last week. So that didn't move forward, just for the record. So that is letter C. Time did run out. We have Honorable Arvizo. How do you vote? Honorable Arvizo votes green. Honorable Johnson votes green. Honorable Damon votes green. Honorable Toth votes green. Thank you, colleagues. We have 17 in favor, 0 opposed, with Speaker not voting. Thank you, colleagues. We are down to number 9, old business, legislation 0052-23. There's a primary sponsor, Honorable Crotty, who is on the excuse absence. So I would like to call on any of the co-sponsors if they would like to present the legislation. So we have co-sponsor Honorable Damon, Honorable Simpson, and Honorable Yazzie as co-sponsors. Any of the prime sponsor or any of the co-sponsors willing to present this legislation, you can come forward. I'll do the courtesy calls again. Second call. Third call. Moving forward, colleagues, we're going down to new business. We do have a consent agenda. Ms. Johnson, could you help us read the consent agenda into the record? Point of privilege raised by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for your leadership during this time. Speaker, I called a point of privilege. I just want to make sure that we have it on the record. I know that our council rules of order as well as our Navajo Nation code does state that the first day of council is for reports. And I know that you just called the first legislation and you asked if there's any of the co-sponsors who wish to come up to present the legislation. I just want to make sure that we're in order and we have it on the record that we are allowed to move forward with calling of the legislations. Is that correct? Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Yes, that is correct. We did move through forth of all the report items, and now the next order of business would be old business and new business. Ms. Johnson, could you help us read the consent agenda into the record?
Thank you, Madam Chair, honorable members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Consent agenda, legislation 0231-23, an action relating to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, the Budget and Finance Committee, the Nabakia Tiet Committee, and the Navajo Nation Council, approving $3,000 from the CHSN Fund to the Navajo Preparatory School for a new student housing building, approving the related expenditure plan. There is a committee report from the Health, Education, Human Services Committee dated October 9 with a due pass and no amendment. A committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee dated October 10 with a due pass and no amendment. A committee report from the Nabakia Tiet Committee dated October 12 with a due pass, no amendment. And this legislation per Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, Rule 9, legislation has been read into record by electronic voice recording. Legislation 0158-23, an action relating to the Nabakia Tiet Committee and Navajo Nation Council, amending CAP-15-23, the Navajo Nation Fiscal Recovery Fund Delegate Region Project Plan for Honorable Jermaine Simonson, Delegate Region Chapters Hard Rock, Forest Lake, Pinyon, Black Mesa, Whippoorwill, to include additional projects for this delegate region. Prime sponsor is Honorable Jermaine Simonson. There is a committee report from the Nabakia Tiet Committee dated August 10 with a due pass and no amendment. This legislation per Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, Rule 9, legislation has been read into record by electronic voice recording. Legislation 0203-23, an act relating to the Law and Order, Budget and Finance, and Nabakia Tiet Committees, and the Navajo Nation Council, amending the Navajo Nation Procurement Act at 12 NNC Section 301 through Section 371, and amending the Navajo Nation Budget Opportunity Act 5 NNC Section 201 through Section 215. The prime sponsor is Honorable Seth Damon, co-sponsored by Honorable Shandine Parrish. There are committee reports from the Law and Order Committee dated August 28 with a due pass and no amendment. Committee report from Budget and Finance Committee dated September 11 with a due pass and no amendment. A committee report from Nabakia Tiet Committee dated October 12 with a due pass and no amendment. This legislation per Navajo Nation Council Rules of Order, Rule 9, legislation has been read into record by electronic voice recording. Legislation 0232-23, an action relating to the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, the Budget and Finance Committee, the Nabakia Tiet Committee, and the Navajo Nation Council, approving $2,130,804 from the CHSN Fund for Coyote Canyon Rehabilitation Center, Inc., for new modular building and infrastructure approving the related expenditure plan. Prime sponsor is Honorable Nathan Nota, co-sponsor Honorable Crystalline Curley, co-sponsor Honorable Danny Simpson. This legislation contains committee reports from the Health, Education, Human Services Committee dated October 9 with a due pass and no amendment. Committee report from Budget and Finance Committee dated October 10, which failed with no amendment. Nabikiatiat Committee report dated October 12 with a due pass, no amendment. This legislation per Nomination Council Rules of Order, Rule 9, legislation has been read into record by electronic voice recording. Legislation 0230-23, an action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee, the Resources and Development Committee, and the Nabikiatiat Committee, amending Exhibit A to Resolution number CJA-01-21 to change the Sawmills Chapter 1-ton truck purchase to other equipment. Prime sponsor is Honorable Andy Nez. There's a committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee dated October 10 with a due pass and no amendment. A committee report from Resources and Development Committee dated October 11 with a due pass and no amendment. And Nabikiatiat Committee dated October 12 with a due pass and one amendment. And Amendment 1 reads, 1, on page 1 at line 12, add the following new language before the wording amending. New language and the Nomination Council, semicolon, and new language amending. 2, on page 1 at line 29, add the following new paragraph D. New language D, the Nomination Council is the governing body of the Nomination. 2, NNC Section 102A. As such, the council may approve appropriations from the Nomination CHSN Fund or amendments to council-approved allocations from the CHSN Fund. And new language. 3, on page 3 at line 8, insert the following new section. New language, Section 4, directives. The Office of Management and Budget, the Office of the Controller, and the Division of Community Development, as well as other Nomination offices, departments, programs, etc., involved in this legislation shall work promptly and diligently to ensure that the Nomination's procurement process is followed and all other required and appropriate actions are taken so that the approved funds are made available and the purchases of the vehicles/equipment for the Sawmill chapter are completed before the December 31, 2023 deadline. 4, renumber or reletter succeeding paragraphs, sections, and exhibits as necessary and appropriate. The Office of Legislative Services and the Office of Legislative Counsel are authorized to make technical edits to this legislation and its exhibits to implement the committee's intent. This amendment supersedes inconsistent language in any other amendments. And this legislation, per Nomination Council Rules of Order, Rule 9, legislation has been read into record by electronic voice recording. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We do have a motion by Honorable Damon, second by Honorable Dr. Andy Nez. Colleagues, we will have 2 minutes on the board. This is for the consent agenda. While we are voting, we also want to recognize DDC for providing lunch. We have Mr. Tom sitting way back there, if you could wave to us. So make sure you express your appreciation to him today. And it did also for the delegates, the staff, and also our visitors. Thank you, Mr. Tom. So make sure you relay the message back that we greatly appreciate the great lunch this afternoon. And for the record, this will require 2/3 of the full vote of the council, so 16 votes. Honorable Azeret. We have locked down the votes. We have 17 in favor, 0 opposed, with speaker not voting. Consent agenda does carry. Colleagues, as a reminder, the next two legislations does require a 2/3 vote, so just for the record. Next, we will go forth with item B. Oh, Honorable Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The 25th Navajo Nation Council. Moving forward, we have like four legislations that left for this council session. Of course, 2/3 votes. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion to recess for tomorrow.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. There is a motion on the floor to recess, and second by Chair Eugenia Charles Newton. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments on motion to recess? Vice Chair Slater.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and thank you, Delegate Daniels, for the motion. My strong preference would be that we continue with legislation today. Because we accepted so many reports as written, it seemed like the purpose was to get down to business. The only thing I can imagine is if there are certain legislations where delegates don't envision they'll have the votes at this time, we just suspend the floor rules and put that at the end of the agenda, and we work with one another and respect those delegates who would like to put their legislation at the end of the agenda. Those are the only comments I'll offer. I just would like to continue moving through with the work of the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Slater. And colleagues, are there any other additional comments or questions? If I'm not correct, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think the way it works, the agenda, the 2/3 have to go first, so it wouldn't have to be moved towards the end of the agenda. So. All right, colleagues, I don't see any other questions or comments on the motion to recess. We'll go 2 minutes to the board. This is motion to recess. Green means you do want to recess for today. Red means you want to continue our business today. It is a simple majority vote. Less than 40 seconds on the board, colleagues. Time did expire. Honorable Arbiza votes green. Honorable Johnson votes green. Honorable Damon. Honorable Jesus. Honorable Damon. Honorable Norman Begay. Honorable Parrish. Honorable Jesus. All right, colleagues, that's a vote of 9 in favor with 6 opposed on the motion to recess. And we will we will recess at 1:45 p.m. Thank you, colleagues. And tomorrow we do have 3 legislations on the agenda tomorrow.